I don't want to get political, and I'm not going to. I am, however, going to address up front that guys don't normally talk about this stuff, and when we do, it's often very self deprecating, and it's rarely taken seriously. So, that's how I want to start this video. In my last off the cuff, I said that you are not a burden, and I stand by that, but I am horribly depressed right now, and I don't want to burden my subscribers, my quote unquote customers, my pals with this kind of stuff, because this is not the place to do it. I know that. But Off the Cuff is a series that I have introduced 2 years ago. I never went any further with it than one video, but it was received, at least comment wise, and liked, disliked very well. And so I have confidence that you guys can either skip this episode if it's not your cup of tea and wait for the next review / video in general, or if you want, you can hang around and we can talk about something that is very dear and close to my heart. I say dear like it's a good thing. Sorry, I'm not good at off-the-cuff stuff, despite making a video like this. Self-image is something that gets touted a lot as very important by the media and by activists and by pretty much everyone, even men. But we, least of all, talk about it, and there is a reason for that. But there's a couple reasons, but I'm just not going to discuss them because, like I said, I'm not going to get political. But I do want to discuss what it's like struggling with those issues on my end, because I'm sure we all have similar problems now and again, and I want to be able to talk about it. And so here we go, I guess. Do you ever wake up and go to the bathroom, whether it's early in the morning or late at night, maybe you work third shift, you ate a little too much junk food that day, even though you said you were going to start dieting. You don't have any abs yet, even though you've been working really hard and you can probably hold a plank for even a minute. You're like, I should have some tonnage, but you can't see it because you eat too much. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, God damn, what the fuck am I? Like, I'm not human. I look disgusting. This sounds like an exaggeration, but these are legitimately the level of dehumanizing thoughts we send toward ourselves. We say to ourselves things that sometimes even edgelords wouldn't say to other people. We really go hard on ourselves sometimes. The problem is that sometimes we deserve it. I have gone weeks without working out and eating rough. Then I've gone other weeks working out my abs till they hurt and eating nothing but salads and chicken. I have been to every extreme. I've had abs, I've been fat, I have had no skincare regimen. I have currently the most extreme skincare regimen, as I'm trying to preserve myself like a mummy. I mean, it's just, self-image is something I struggle with a lot. And I'm sure you all can agree, confidence and self-image are one of the hardest things to kind of cope with. But then you see cocky, egotistical assholes, and you think, outside of the obvious fact that some of them are overcompensating for insecurity of their own, to an extent you almost feel sympathy, but then there's people who are just legitimately confident, sometimes too confident. It's like, God, sometimes I wish I could be like that. I wish I could just be like, hell yeah, this is going to be awesome. But I can't. I've been hurt too many times by thinking that I knew I could do something and then failing over and over until you realize maybe you're just not right for this, or asking at a girl who you didn't even think was the most pretty girl in school or anything, but you thought was pretty, and she turned you down. You realized you're not that attractive, or at some point you just did all these things together and you lost all your confidence, and now here you go, you graduate high school, and all those issues you either just developed or have had for a while, maybe even longer than high school, they're still there. They don't go away just because you walk across a stage. Now you're 20-something years old, maybe even older than I am, and you just don't like yourself. You hate your job. You hate that you live at home with your parents, or maybe you moved out early and you hate that you can't make your rent without struggling and cutting lots of expenses. You hate how the economy is. You hate life itself. But the worst thing ever is that all this hatred you have for the world that just starts brewing and brewing, it's all compounded by the fact that, metaphorically speaking, when you come home, you have a bully always following you. That one that you can't beat up. One that you can't just tell to go away. You can't call the police on this person, but they harass you constantly. It's you. You're not just your worst critic, like I said last time. You are also your biggest bully. You are not always constructive, or if you're constructive, you're doing it at the wrong times and too harshly. But guess what? We can't stop it sometimes. I have self-image troubles, like I said, and I wanted to share my experience with them. When I started YouTube, and right before, I started working out for the first time in a long time. I hadn't really done it much before, but I was doing it for a short time during my stint where I lost about 45, 50 pounds. I used to be nearly 200. I dropped down like 160-ish. I was officially just skinny fat when I used to be kind of chunky. And now I'm back to kind of skinny fat, thankfully. But I was headed toward chunky again. When a few months to a year ago, I had my abs. I literally went from fat to skinny to abs, back to skinny fat. And now I was headed toward chunky, but I saved myself. This seems really humorous to talk about, like, you were chunky. Yeah, but do you know how horrible I felt through all of those phases? I wasn't just like, I was never good enough. Nothing I did was good enough. I gained weight, I lost weight, I started working out my arms. I stopped working out my arms when I thought they were disproportionate. I was doing a new skincare regimen. I was trying conditioner, finally using it correctly because I used to just dump it over my head because I was an idiot and I was too embarrassed and manly to talk about things like my regimen and ask people for advice. So, of course. But outside of that, it was never a toxicity thing. I just legitimately didn't have any knowledge of these things. And finally now I have a good enough knowledge on things like this that I can take care of myself, and I think I present myself somewhat decently. But at the end of the day, my physical appearance has always been a huge thing for me. I realize somebody out there is going to say, oh, but aren't you a dragon? Haha. Yes, I am a dragon online. Like, let's just at least allow this video for me to break the magic. I am a person, and I hate my skin, I hate my face, I hate my nose. I have literally gone through bouts where I almost entered a bulimic state, and I had my head in the toilet ready to start vomiting, but I was smart enough to just stop and Google the health negativity. And to be honest with you, the only negative health-wise that I found that I couldn't bear to deal with was that I might fuck up my voice, because it's the only thing that helps me get through the day, is that I know that I have something somewhat marketable that I enjoy, which I hate to say it is speaking, even though I don't like to hear myself talk. I do like to talk to people, to, my friends. Shit, some of my closer friends, I think even some that aren't my friends anymore, once in a rare while they joke and be like, hey, can you talk me to sleep? And I would actually do it. I used to talk my girlfriend to sleep. And that sounds like humorous or cute, but that's what I'm saying. Like, my voice has always been a positive force in my life, but other than that, I've never had any kind of innate talent or any kind of anything I could grasp onto that made me feel worthwhile. And then I got older and I realized I'm not even that funny. I mean, people might say, oh, you're chuckle-worthy or this, but like, I'm not like a comedian. I don't have enough skills and talents and things that I feel personally like I'm worthwhile. There are people with less talent than me who have done more, and I have respect for them. There are people who have done nothing yet but have the potential to do so. But I know who I am. I know what I can and can't do, and I don't see myself doing anything worthwhile. And I don't know, I'm trying to become comfortable with that idea. But my point is that self-image and self-esteem is really rough to deal with. I do not empathize, or I'm sorry, I do. I empathize highly. I don't envy anyone with even worse mental issues than I have. And I do not, and I want to repeat this, I do not wish this on my worst enemy, because it's like, if you have a few confidence issues, fine, but you never want to wake up every day and wish you were physically someone else. I don't just mean like a little bit, like I wish I could be almost everything short of genetically different. I don't want to not be my mom and dad's child. I don't want to not be in my family, of course. And I say I don't want to be dead, but there's been suicidal thoughts occasionally, but that's not relevant. I promise I'm good. But it's just, that's my point. It's like, I don't want to stop being in this particular life. I just wish I was doing better in a lot of ways that I can and some that I can't. Some of it's like nose jobs, facelifts, things that I just can't afford and frankly would eventually probably cause me issues. But then there's working out, which is hard because I'm super depressed right now, and I eat a little too much now and again. Then I'll starve myself for a day to make up for it. Like I said, I was almost bulimic for a short while there because I literally was trying to force myself to vomit, and it's like, why do we do this? Why do we want to fit these kinds of beauty standards? Well, honestly, it's because they're not unattainable. That's the biggest lie that people are going to tell you. Oh, these are unattainable beauty standards. No, they're not. They are absolutely attainable. It doesn't mean you'll be mentally happy. Maybe you will, but it doesn't mean that you will be. And yeah, there are downsides to consistently keeping up a rock hard body, but it's possible. I want to have my abs back. I want to be somebody physically worth looking at. I want to be comfortable taking my shirt off. I'm skinny fat right now. That's like the definition of what I am. I work my arms out so they're not weak, but they're not anything impressive. At best, I'm average, but at worst, I am a little below, I think. And I hate that people will tell you, oh, this is unattainable. It's not unattainable. And people deserve me to try harder. They deserve for me to do better, and I feel that way every day. When I release a video and there's a fucking flaw in it, like I forget to render something, or I forget to add rain, like in the episode where I had Jin on my in my Lion King review, I was supposed to add rain in this section where she makes it rain, at the time well, guess what? I didn't. And she brought it up, and we laughed over it, but inside I was fucking dying. I was so happy that it kind of worked out, and it just kind of like added to the joke almost, like the cheap quality of my review maybe, or if it didn't add, it didn't totally detract, but fuck's sakes, I was so sad. I could not believe I fucked up that bad, and I do this all the time. I'm a quarter of the way through editing my next video, which is barely even 10 minutes. My next review isn't even written yet. Soft and I haven't even punched up a script. I'm falling off the wagon because I can't stand myself physically. I know that sounds weird and it's such a cop-out, but I'm already depressed. So when you add on such high levels of self-esteem issues, it becomes fucking impossible to do anything. And I know, you know, people do it all the time. I'm sure people like SaberSpark and others have Lexapro and shit. I'm sure that some of them are depressed, and I'm not calling them out. I don't know if they are or not. Jeremy Jahan, literally in a video about Staten Island that he just reviewed a little bit ago, he openly admitted to using Lexapro, and it's like, cool, you're normalizing the talk about it. But my point is, to be the level of the depressed where you feel the need to use, whether temporary or not, medication, it's like, that's serious, man. But to have that kind of, and I'm not trying to self-diagnose. I'm seeing a therapist, and she so far hasn't really been very helpful, if I'm being honest. I'm not calling her out either. Maybe she will get there. But like, my point is that I have these horrible self-esteem issues already, and it's like, I don't know if between that and the depression overall, if I can, I don't know. It's a lot. That's the thing nobody talks about. They always talk about self-esteem like that's the only issue. And I'm not saying they think it's the only issue, but it's like nobody ever addresses the fact that you're already depressed sometimes without the self-esteem issues. Then you have self-esteem issues. Then you work 3 jobs. Then you feel stressed over every little thing naturally. Even if you're not kicking yourself, you naturally get high anxiety. Then you start having panic attacks for the first time ever in the last month. Okay, it's getting a little more personal now, I'm sorry. But my point is that, yeah, exactly that. With all that going on, with all of this shit happening to you, how are you supposed to keep up this facade? But then at the same time, even what I'm doing right now is stupid. Because telling people that you're breaking down, guess what? Ruins your career. You might think it doesn't, but it does. Taking time off YouTube. The algorithm is not kind. You don't get a vacation. And I have fucked up already by not posting every 2 weeks. By posting over a month apart each, I am basically guaranteeing that I will have slow, if ever any, growth. And that's not a problem because I never thought to make YouTube a full-time job, so I don't need to get to some massive level. But the fact is, I do want to see how many subs we can get, how big we can build this little family of fun-loving people. if nothing else, I hope this video is a fucking nice video for you to fall asleep to if you like my voice. If you don't, then I'm sorry. All you're hearing is me rambling about shit that doesn't matter, but it's painful. You know what I mean? Like, you listening to it right now, I'm sure you've had self-esteem issues. I don't know if they've ever been bad or if they've ever been, paired with depression, but there's a good chance they have. And if they haven't, well, I'm very happy for you. But unlike some people, I'm not going to say you can't relate. I'm sure to some extent you can put yourself in my shoes and kind of get where I'm coming from. Not fully, but you can. And so I appreciate the empathy, and I appreciate that you're listening if you have listened this far. And I really, anybody listening right now, I'm really thankful because this is rambly and pointless. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry that I'm bringing this up, but I just wanted to talk about it, like nobody talks about these things. We joke about them, we self-deprecate, but nobody openly says outside, like depression's become normalized, but nobody ever outside of like maybe tagging it on the end of depression just admits I have self-esteem issues that are so bad that I sometimes don't want to post because I think it's not worth it, or that I don't work on my review because I don't think it's funny and I lose interest. And then top that with depression, which makes me lose passion and everything else. It's like, yeah, is it really any shock that sometimes I can't even post for over a month? I mean, I'm not trying to get sympathy. That's what this sounds like, but I needed to talk about this because it's driving me insane. Anybody else out there ever had this? I mean, what am I saying? Yes, of course they've had it. But I mean, like, have you guys, specifically you guys, have you ever fallen off the horse this hard? Have you ever hated yourself so much? Do you still? And I know this is going to turn into either a self-pity circle or a self-help circle, but you can absolutely post your ideas for trying to defeat this kind of thinking in the comments, and you're absolutely welcome to discuss it amongst each other and with me. But at the end of the day, I hate to say it, I'm not going to take any advice, and I don't endorse any advice in the comments. I want you to see somebody like I'm trying to see somebody, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or I'm sorry, I know that there's a difference. I don't know why I just said that, but the point is, see somebody and try to get it through, work through it. You can, and I'm here for you. Despite all I've said, I just wanted to, I wanted to end on a note that you are worth far more than you think you are. And you are sometimes prettier than you think you are, but that doesn't even matter because, yes, it matters to an extent. People who say it doesn't are idiots, but it does matter, but so do you. And you are more than your looks. If you ever feel so ugly that you refuse to accept that maybe you are handsome or sexy to somebody out there, fine. But you are worth more than that. And more than just the superficial, your work, the things you're building, I'm sure they're great. And if they're not great, you could make them great. Even if you end up releasing some kind of like game you've been working on and people hate it, guess what? I know somewhere in there was a core concept that got you really excited, and that was for a good reason, because you had thought of something that was exciting. Because you're worth it. And it's, I know this is turning into this vague, like, telling you how great you are, but it's just, I spent goddamn near 20 minutes now talking about how fucking horrible my life is, and just occasionally being like, you get that, you guys? It's like, I'm just trying to put it out there that I do believe in you guys, and I'm trying to believe in myself, and well, at any rate, I'm just trying to kind of get my, words together. So thanks everyone for listening, and if you need to talk in the comments, we're here. Just thanks for listening, and I'll see you in a more lighthearted video next time. I love you guys so much.